This is part two of my channel. To clarify, what I say is pretty much my opinion and how I think and how I think things through in my way. I do not want to compare any of the religions to just who's superior to another. As far as I'm concerned, faith-based organizations tend to lean in sort of other people's faiths and their beliefs and what is true and what is not true. But I do believe almost everything is kind of similar to a T, but in some areas outside of the realm of the Judeo-Christian faith, there's a lot of cultural aspects that go into the Islamic faith. And to me, is possibly the most restrictive, as far as I'm concerned, of a person's personal faith. In the Christian faith, sacrifice, there's only like one true sacrifice to absolve everyone's sins. In the Jewish faith, the sins are paid through the blood of an unblemished animal, and in many forms, the Jewish faith, in my opinion, is possibly one of the most brutal faiths to have in cases when it comes to sacrifice. I mean, almost everything is sort of like all the same in the Mosaic Law, which all the faiths stem from. And here we are. Using religion to further one's selfish appetites. That's the way I see it. And as what's going on in today's world when it comes to what happened between October 7th and today. The thing is, what has happened was a government-run ideology has run amok. There's more and more people coming into Israel because of the shift in the population, and plus the fact that I do believe the world's population now is at 8 billion. So there's going to be needed for a lot of space, and there's a lot of need for a lot of fresh water. So what do? You possibly would use your own faith to use that as your advantage to take over some territorial lands that were once ancestrally theirs. And in the book of Joshua, um, it kind of dispels the myth that Jews had control of the ancient lands of Canaan. What Jews were, or the Israelites were just the same as most of the shepherds' uh, tribes, nomadic tribes that kind of ruled around the areas on the outskirts of Canaan and some of the areas of Sinai, um, northwestern Egypt, and they really did not have a really much of a place to go. Now, when it came to Abraham, he came all the way from the Ur of Chaldea, Ur of Chaldees, or as the story goes. He took his wives, his concubines, his maids, maid servants, slaves, you name it, and basically, if you wanted to get from one area to the Mediterranean Sea, if you go through the desert, there's a good chance you're not going to survive, not for months on end. And if you was the Trans-Euphrates River or the Jordan, I don't know which was which, but if you followed that route, you made sure your animals, your people were always fed and watered. Along the way, you grew crops, you stayed for a season or so, then you moved on to the next area and onto the next area because it was not very much densely populated. But and sometimes, like you see some of the wagon trains out west, some people will just sell where they're at, and some people will just move on. Well, part of the other tribes will sell where they're at and just move on to the next till they finally there's like a small little population of people who pretty much were basically from Abraham. And there was like many tribes that Abraham he dealt with in Canaan. They then became the Israelites, or the chosen, right after Isaac, and after Isaac begat Jacob. Jacob kind of means one who fights with God. It's another name for Israel. Go name Israelites, the Jacobites. As some scholars would say they were. They lived by a law that was kind of centered around kind of like the basics of life and how to survive and how to get along with one another. And that was kind of the basic laws for all three religions. How does this tie in with today? Throughout the centuries, Yahweh, as many would put it, kind of forewarned about making love and making lust for territory, lust for other people, a dire warning of the consequences to come if you tried to take over people and try to take over land. So there's like an upheaval. And what happens is once you conquer the lands, later on the road, that's what's going to happen. Another group comes in and takes over. And it's just sort of like this endless cycle that's been going on for centuries, for millennia, for at least maybe 4 millennials. And as of today, the same trickery and treachery that has begun that Bibi Netanyahu, his cabinet, his government are now suffering consequences of trying to turn that narrative that all Palestinians are Hamas, which is basically what the ICC sees. They see that they've been breaking a lot of laws governing warfare, as they've been breaking every law on the books of international law when it comes to like the Geneva Conventions or some of the accords that kind of form like the basis for how to fight wars fairly. Not a lot of wars are fought fairly, but in this case, what looks like a police action to eradicate Hamas is pretty much a destruction of the Palestinian people inside of North South Gaza and the West Bank, with IDF firm clause with American money to exterminate all Palestinians. IDF does not recognize Palestinians as human beings. They use them as beasts. They will call them Hamas, and in justification, will kill a baby, say that was a Hamas soldier being born. Let's just say. And you look at it that way, and you look at the people, and you look at the world. This is what the world sees. How awful. It doesn't matter what group it is. This thing should not exist. This continuation of fighting and treating others less than human beings is utter rubbish to the people outside of Israel. And right now it's starting to sink in with both the Zionist movement, AIPAC, and a lot of politicians now. Now, many are going to get really concerned. And one question is going to be asked in Congress: how much AIPAC money have you taken? And it's going to be a matter for public record. And in doing so, if the chances are, what's happening is ICC made a threat that they're going to turn into a promise that they're going to issue warrants for the people that orchestrated the genocide inside Palestine. I call it Palestine for a good reason, because Palestinian people live there. They may be Palestinians, some may consider them Islamic trash. Now, I'm not saying they are trash. Well, as long as they may be considered as trash in their own eyes. The fact of the matter is, Israel is in the wrong. And going back to my trusty source, the Huffington Post, I'm going to read the article that I came across and give credit where credit is due. Okay. So the title of this article is ICC prosecutor seeks arrest warrants for Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu Hamas leaders. Korea, and this was posted by the AP journalist Joseph Fetterman, I believe. So here we go. Karim Khan said he believes Netanyahu, his defense minister Yoav Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders are responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity. The chief prosecutor of the world's top crime court sought arrest warrants Monday for leaders of Israel and Hamas, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, over actions taken during the 7-month war. While Netanyahu and his defense minister Yoav Gallant do not face immediate arrest, they're also by the International Criminal Court chief prosecutor was a simple that deepened Israel's isolation of war in Gaza. The court's prosecutor, Karim Khan, accused Netanyahu, Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Diaf, and Ismail Haniyeh, of war crimes and crime against humanity in the Gaza Strip in Israel. Netanyahu and others condemned him as a disgraceful and anti-Semitic. Also on that claimed as the prosecutor and supported Israel's right to defend itself against Hamas. The panel of 3 judges will decide whether to issue the arrest warrants and allow a case to proceed. The judge typically take 2 months to make such decision. Israel is not a member of the court, so even if the arrest warrants are issued, Netanyahu and Gallant do not face any immediate risk of prosecution, but the threat of arrest could make it difficult for Israel leaders to travel abroad. I'm going to stop right there. For a second. Benjamin Netanyahu has been at odds with many Democratic presidents and Republican presidents. But when it came to Joe Biden, there's a good chance that I forgot what I was about to say, but that's okay. But what I'm trying to say is it's very hard to ask for money when a check is kind of like freely given by our own Congress, approved by our president. And we've been giving them weapons and more money. Are we taking a blind eye to what they're doing? I hope not. We need to keep them accountable. Now, the last 2 weeks has been about protests in the streets, and And it kind of occurred to me, there's there is a correlation when it comes to journalists disappearing, dying, equipment being stolen by the IDF. The IDF are the Israeli Defense Force. And they went on an impunity to get rid of anybody that's associated with the press, making them primary targets, as well as the food supply for the refugee camps that are in and around the strip, especially in the southern strip. So, and many ultra Orthodox Jews who feel that they have the right to impose their laws on the Palestinian people is not going to bode well with any typical Palestinian. They're going to outright rebel. And if I'm not mistaken, this might be the period where friendships and bonds are formed as early as 5, 6 years old to want to kill an Israeli. Now, and much better if he was a Jew. That'd be the icing on the cake. And this is where the anti-Semitism comes in to place, because of the fact that when you've been fighting for millennia, thousands of years, you have to ask yourself why. Sometimes you have to sit down, turn on the light, and not think on a subject that is like mundane to me. I'm playing Smash Brothers. My great nephews gave me this game, so I'm going to be playing with that. But um, what I'm about to say is not so controversial. Right now, I'm just thinking, what's what I'm going to say next. Let's tie this up. There's no doubt in my mind that Bibi Netanyahu is a dummy. He just doesn't know when to stop until somebody tells him to. What Bibi has done for the last 20 years is reprehensible. His administration does even worse. But they're getting fed millions, if not billions, of dollars just to get rid of anything that's Palestine, anything that resembles anything remotely about the Islamic faith. And many Muslims think this is the next crusade. And I'd say we're in World War III because a lot of people are trying to choose sides on whose side with. Are you for me or you against me? A lot of times, you waste your time with both sides, and both sides will just kill you. If you try to play the fence, because sooner or later you're going to split. More tugging you do on that fence, you're going to get sliced right open. And the duplicity is there. Many who, and I'm willing to bet, some of our senators and some of our congresspeople have bought massive amounts of territory inside the strip already, waiting for a time where they can offload the equipment necessary to rebuild what was left of the West Bank. You just want to cry. One of these facts. And I say it's gibberish. There's going to be another 5 years before a prosecutor that is right in mind is willing to take a case like this and throw the book at him. We'll possibly go to a state where they'll have the election chair. So tonight, I'll leave you with this thought. Benjamin's getting what he deserves. AIPAC is getting what they deserve. Pretty soon, the ICC course is possibly to extend the warrants to Biden and to the donors that have lent money to AIPAC. So the ICC is going to be going after AIPAC in a big way. All it takes is some sort of scandal, and the case stops. So tonight, this two-parter is nonsense. I just do this because I don't like my dog coming into my room and trying to invade my privacy. So, take care of yourselves, guys. Take care of each other, even after COVID.